Hello, welcome to Redshift Serverless for Beginners. Get $300 credit from Amazon Web Services lesson by Ganapati Devappa. Serverless is the way to go for adopting cloud services. Amazon Web Services or AWS is the most popular cloud service and the Redshift is the most popular cloud-based data warehouse. I am supporting many clients who are moving their Oracle and Microsoft SQL Server based data warehouses to Amazon Redshift. Amazon has just introduced Redshift Serverless, which provides a Redshift cluster without any initial cost, and Amazon is giving a $300 credit till October to use and explore this service. Redshift Serverless became general availability, that is GA, on July 12, 2022. In this lesson, I will talk about Redshift, Redshift Spectrum, and introduce Redshift Serverless. I will also give a demo on setting Redshift Serverless, load a sample database, run sample queries, and find out the cost incurred with just a few clicks. This being a new product, there are some undocumented glitches we may encounter, and I will show you how to overcome them. So let us get started. I am a strong advocate of serverless processing. I hope you learn from this, share the knowledge with others, and adopt Redshift Serverless in your organization. I am also a trainer on Udemy. My course, Big Data for Managers on Udemy, has more than 6,000 students, and more than 100 students subscribe to that every month. Please subscribe and learn about big data as well using the link provided below. What is serverless processing? With serverless, we don't provision any machines, CPUs, memory, or disk space. We just load the data into our data lake and process the data. But it cannot happen in thin air, right? Someone has to provide the machines. AWS will provision all the software and infrastructure needed to run the query and do the processing for you. Managing the machines, starting, stopping, restarting, all will be taken care by AWS. You don't need to decide how much resources you need. AWS will find that out and allocate enough resources to run your processing. You may think, what if AWS deploys 1,000 machines to run your query, and do you have to pay for that? No. The costing is very transparent. You pay only for the amount of data that you process or how long your query or process runs. It can scale up automatically to petabytes of data. Imagine not having to set up massive data centers and maintaining those data centers, though you need to run reports only in the last week of the month or the first week of the quarter. It is a win-win for everyone. Amazon Redshift is the most popular data warehouse on the cloud. I am currently supporting many clients. Some are moving their in-house Oracle data warehouse to Redshift, and others are moving their massive Microsoft SQL Server databases to Redshift. It is a fully managed distributed data warehouse on the cloud, built on big data principles. It was not serverless until now, as you had to provision an initial base cluster. It is one of the popular options for migrating an in-house relational database quickly to cloud. It can handle petabyte scale of data and is a relational database that supports PostgreSQL. It is a columnar database, so it has the advantage of columnar processing with additional benefit of supporting relational SQL. It supports stored procedures as well, so you can easily migrate your procedure statements in Oracle or SQL Server to Redshift. Redshift Spectrum is an extension of Redshift and is a fully managed serverless data warehouse. It is not totally serverless as it needs a minimal Redshift cluster to run the queries. You can query exabytes of data stored on S3 with unlimited scaling. AWS will provision as many servers as required to run the query and return the results. Like Athena, you can get charged based on the amount of data scanned. There will be some latency as the servers need to be provisioned to run the query. Redshift Spectrum is a popular choice for migrating in-house data warehouses to cloud. You migrate the data to S3 as data lake and migrate the queries to Redshift using schema conversion tool provided by Redshift. It is a good example of decoupling of data and processing. The tables are created as external tables in Redshift to take advantage of Redshift Spectrum. For queries that are run frequently and need quick response, you can copy the data to Redshift and use as internal tables, whereas for queries that run for hours, use Redshift Spectrum so that cost is reduced. One drawback of Redshift has been that you need to have a base cluster running all the time, whether you are using internal tables or using Redshift Spectrum to query the data in your data lake. You had to pay for the compute nodes provisioned even when you are not running a query. Is it possible to have best of both worlds by paying only for the storage in the Redshift database and pay for the compute only when data is processed? That is what Redshift Serverless introduces. It became general availability from July 12, 2022. That means you can use it for production workloads and is fully supported by Amazon. With Redshift Serverless, no minimal Redshift cluster is required and you pay for storage and processing separately. Cost for processing and compute capacity is based on Redshift processing units called RPUs. When you submit a query, Redshift automatically provisions the base RPUs configured, scales up or down based on the workload, and releases the capacity once work is completed. This allows for periods when there is zero cost. Your data is also secure as Redshift automatically creates points of recovery every 30 minutes. You can easily migrate your existing Redshift clusters to serverless by loading the snapshots from existing clusters to the new cluster. Let us learn more about Redshift Serverless. In Redshift Serverless, there are no clusters to create. You create namespaces and workgroups. Namespace represents the data resources. It is a collection of database objects and users. The storage-related namespace groups together with schemas, tables, users, or AWS Key Management Service keys for encrypting data. Storage properties include the database name and password of the admin user, permissions, encryption, and security. Workgroups, on the other hand, represent the compute resources. A workgroup groups together compute resources like RPUs, VPC subnet groups, and security groups. Properties for the workgroup include network and security settings. Other resources that are grouped under workgroups include access and usage limits. You can create one or more namespaces and workgroups. A namespace can exist without any workgroup associated with it. Each namespace can have only one workgroup associated with it, and each workgroup can be associated with only one namespace. You can set up a namespace and workgroup by using the default configuration. By default, the base capacity is 128 RPUs, but you can set it to a minimum of 32 or multiple of 8 thereafter, like 40, 48, etc. Each RPU provides 16 gigabytes of memory. So if you think you need 1024 gigabytes of memory to start with, you can configure for 64 RPU capacity. You pay for this only when you submit a query. So when you submit a query, the base RPU is provisioned, and if the query needs more compute, it is scaled up, and when the query starts taking less compute resources, RPUs are scaled down, and all RPUs are released when the query completes. You can put an upper limit on the number of RPUs provisioned per day so that you can stop the processing or create an alarm when the limit is reached. This will help you control the costs. You can access Redshift Serverless through console, JDBC, ODBC, or CLI. JDBC endpoints are provided on port 5439. That is by default. The difference from normal Redshift cluster is that you don't need to worry about what node types to use and provisioning the base cluster. Now, let us look at how much does it really cost. There is a $300 credit provided by Amazon to use this service. I think this will be valid till October of 2022. So please check this when creating the namespace, as it is shown on the Redshift Serverless console. The remaining credit are also shown as I will be showing in the next demo. The processing cost is $0.36 per RPU in the US East 1 region. The service is not currently available in all the regions, and you may want to check if it is available in your region or provision the service only in the available region. The storage is called Redshift Managed Storage or RMS and is costed separately at $0.024 per gigabyte per month or $24 per terabyte per month. Note that usage of space is rounded to hours and 720 hours are considered for a month, whereas RPUs are counted in seconds and rounded to minutes for billing. Suppose you store 10 terabyte of data in your data warehouse and your processes run for 2 hours every day and use 64 RPUs per hour on an average. Your cost will be about $1,622 per month, calculated as shown. Redshift also provides a query to find out your current compute usage using the query shown. We will run this query in the demo to find out how much we utilized in the demo. In the next demo, I will show you how to set up Redshift Serverless, load a sample database provided by AWS, run sample query, check the cost, and also show the usage graphs. Total cost for the demo is less than $3 and is covered by the $300 credit. So go ahead and practice the demo to become familiar with Redshift Serverless. My narration may not be very good with the demo, but please bear with me on that. Now let us explore Amazon Redshift Serverless. We are on the AWS console. I previously used Redshift, so it is shown here. We can also type here Amazon Redshift. You can open this in a new tab. It says try Amazon Redshift Serverless. Let us click on this. It says use default settings. And also note that to start using Redshift Serverless, set up the serverless data warehouse and create a database. You will receive $300 credit towards your Redshift Serverless usage in this account. So, and this $300 credit is supposed to be for the first 3 months once you start using it. So let us go ahead and use the default settings. You can also customize your settings, which will set you to use namespace, database name and password, admin credentials, associated IAM roles, like that. security and encryption. Instead, let us use the default settings. So with default settings, it creates a default namespace and workgroup, and the default settings become active when you associate the default workgroup to the default namespace. So let us go ahead with this. We have seen what is a namespace and workgroup. Namespace name in this case is default. Database name and password are dev. You can set default or manage IAM roles. See that? Create IAM role. So with this, basically it associates Amazon Redshift all commands full access. Along with that, I can add any S3 bucket also, so that you can access S3 as well and create this IAM role as default. So we have this role. Let's use this one. Workgroup again is also default. It uses the default security and security group. Save this configuration. It takes a few minutes to complete. Let us wait for it to complete. The advantage is that you pay for use only when it is in use. It shows the amount of completion. Let me fast forward to becoming 100%. Okay, the cluster is ready. Let's continue. Now this is the Amazon Redshift serverless dashboard. We are used to calling them as clusters, but with the serverless, they don't call them as clusters. Instead, they call it namespace and workgroups. You see that I have the namespace default, status available, with workgroup default and status also available. Note that you can have only workgroup associated with the namespace. It says free trial, credits remaining $300 out of 300. Very good. We have all $300. Note that I am exploring this along with you so that I can give you first-hand experience. Free trial expiration October 20. There are no alarms. You can put alarms for exceeding particular usage. Running and queued queries, nothing. Completed and failed queries, number of queries. This and all will come back later. We said earlier that the cost is based on RPUs. So it shows here overall capacity. Let us click on this namespace. We have work group. You can back up the data, security and encryption, data shares, actions. You can delete this. It says that it is associated with the namespace default. Okay. This is the JDBC URL. So if you want to access through SQL Workbench or dbeaver, then you can use these URLs. Now, what do we want to do? It has set up the serverless and I can query the data now. So let us go and query the data. Click on this right hand corner, query data. This is the latest Redshift query editor. See that it shows the database, queries, notebooks and charts as well. Serverless default. Let's open this. It is establishing a connection. Okay. So dev is the database it created. So here we can create our own tables and all. As in a normal Redshift cluster, it has that database and then under that the public is the default database. We have tables 0, views, everything is 0. Everything is 0 here. It also created a sample data dev which we can use to query. This is the ticket database. If you see here, sample data dev is available where ticket, TPCH and TPCDS are available. Now what is ticket? Let me show you what is ticket. So this ticket is a sample database with these 7 tables. See that these are the tables: date, sales. It is basically a event management database where events occur and they tell tickets for these events. So you can see the venue for the event, sales, the users and the date. So this helps us in querying this database. But if you see here, it says blocked. That means it is not yet available. So if I click here, it says you do not have sample database yet. Do you want us to create a sample database for you? So go ahead and create this. Note that there is space required for this. That's why it has not been created. You will be charged for the space. So once we are done, let us remove this. It says it is created successfully, but it is taking some time to load the data. I will come back once this data is loaded. It says ticket schema is dropped. Error, user null does not exist. Okay, I am not able to create the sample database. Note that we are in uncharted territory as this is an undocumented error. It took me few minutes to figure out how to fix this. First, I found that current_user shows IAM user instead of admin, which I had expected. So now let me go back and fix this. Let me see what I can do. Let me close this. Let me go back here. I'm back on the namespace. Namespace configuration default. Let me change admin password. I'll create a new admin user. I will enter some password. I will not show the password and save to create a new admin user. Now let me query the data. A cluster not connected. Let us connect. Let us edit the connection here. Database dev. Instead of federated user, let us use database username and password. So admin, let me use AWS user and password. So I have put username AWS user and password and save. Okay. Now let me check current user. It shows AWS user. Let me see now if I can create the sample database. Create public, open sample queries. Okay. Now This was not documented anywhere, so I had to guess and do this. So finally, I have this set search path to ticket, select distinct, some query is already here. Let me run this query. Result 1 is just search path. This is result 2. We have the ticket, sales ID, integer, the columns and all for this table. Let us see some of these tables. Now I am able to open this here. There are 7 tables and we have these tables, sales and all. If you want to see a particular table, I can do show table, let us say sales. They have added this command so we can see the database information. It shows this create table. You can actually copy this. You can see the create table command here through this. Let me close this. Similarly, we can check the data. Select star from sales, limit 10. Let's run this. See that it has sales ID, list ID, seller ID, buyer ID, event ID. Then let us look at another table. Let us check dates. Okay, just date. So these are some date information. So this data is for 2008. Now let us check users table. User ID, username, last name, city. Okay. So let us check distinct city from users, limit, make it 50. Okay, these are all the cities available. Let us check if city equals Boston. My son went to a concert here in Boston by Dua Lipa some time back, so let me check this city. Yeah, it is there. So let me copy a query here. From city, we are getting the seller ID, username, name, city and the sum of quantity sold. So wherever the maximum number of events. From sales, date, users. From these tables where year is 2008 and city, let me change to Boston. Group by the seller ID, username, name and city, and we'll get the top 5 by ordering by 5 descending. The 5 is sum of quantity sold. Let us run this. Okay, you got this. So this person has sold 30 tickets, this person 19, this person 18, this person 16 and this person 15. So this is how we can run queries in Redshift serverless. You can create your own tables, you can create tables from S3, all those you can do. Those I will do in a separate demo. Now I have just demonstrated how we can use serverless. Now how much was the cost so far whatever we have done? That we can do by running another query. Let me paste this query. Basically day sum of compute seconds, and then divide by 60 and again 60 to make it per hour. And then for North Virginia, that is US East one, the cost is 0.36 per RPU. So let us run this. Okay, this is about $2. Okay, so I have $300 credit, so $2 is still within that limit, so I will not be charged anything for this usage. So you see that I have been using this for last almost 20 minutes and still the amount that may be charged is quite low. Let us go out of this editor. We are on this one. Here free trial credit still shows 300 because it will be updated only at the end of the day. Here are the queries that were run. See running and queued queries, completed and failed queries, number of queries. See here the RPU capacity used. Compute capacity 76.8, 38.4, 102.4, like that. This is for the last query that we ran. See around July 22, we have run about 29 queries. Here 36 queries. Here 55 queries. Note that we did load a lot of data for the sales database. That is why it has cost this much. Now let us see if we can drop this namespace. Right? Let us go to this default namespace, actions. Let us see if we can delete this. Shows it cannot be deleted because there is a work group associated. So let us try to delete the work group. So we have default. Let us go there. Let's try to delete this. So it deletes all of this. Let us delete. Can delete associated. I don't want to create any snapshots. Confirm delete. Let us see. So it is getting deleted. This may take a few minutes. So I have successfully demonstrated how to create a namespace and workspace for the serverless, enable the sample database for which we had some issue which we resolved by adding a new user, and then we took care of it. So now you know how to use Amazon Redshift Serverless. Did you like what you learned in this lesson? Redshift Serverless is a very interesting product. I am sure you are excited to use this in your organization and push towards serverless computing. Serverless is the future of computing. Organizations do what they are best at, business management, and Amazon does what they are best at, data processing. We looked at the features of Redshift Serverless and also a demo of how to set it up, load a sample database, fix some glitches, run a sample query, and also checked the cost. We cleaned up everything at the end. Best of all, it didn't cost us a penny as it was within the $300 credit provided by AWS. What are you waiting for? Claim this credit and share with your friends and family so that everyone you know takes advantage of this. Amazon also has introduced EMR Serverless, which I will cover in another lesson. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel. Thank you for watching and bye for now.